What's going on, everyone? We are back here at the workshop and I'm looking a bit tired today because we've had a huge week filming with the S15, getting ready for a commercial, also getting the car ready for World Time Attack. So it's been a very, very long week trying to get that sorted, which has taken me off the Supra, but now I can finally get back onto that. Now it's completely ready to go. So basically today we're going to go through the radiator install as well, because the Fenix radiator just arrived from Benny Jenkins in New Zealand. My Radium tank got here some weeks ago, which is really cool. And the cage is already done by Custom Crafts, so it's all ready to go for me to basically keep working on it. We've already cut out the back of the car, which you might have seen in a previous video. Yeah, it's full setup, ready to go. So really excited to be back on the Supra. It's taken a lot longer than expected. I thought the car would be much further along by now, but yeah, just life's been crazy, work's been seriously busy, and yeah, we're going to work on it pretty hard out from now until the end of the year, have the thing ready and fully set up, ready to test, hopefully in December. Let's go through the radiator setup first. There we go. All right, so we've got a brand new Fenix radiator that Benny sent to me last week. This is it's not a prototype anymore. They've already done the prototype. This is obviously one of the first ones that they've delivered. It's got all the AN16 fittings already welded onto it. And basically it's a perfect setup for a aftermarket rear mount radiator setup. Also, you know, a large enough radiator to fit in the back of one of these cars. We've got them in a few cars. So this one's coming soon. My S15's also got one as well. Obviously one of the older ones. This is a brand new one. We've already cut out the back of the Supra here a couple of weeks ago. I threw that in a previous video. So if you want to revert back to that, you can have a look. This is where the winter's differential is going to sit. I'm pretty sure I'm going to put the tank here because there's heaps of room. I really don't like putting tanks way back in the car because of, obviously, you know, you have a huge accident, it crushes the tank first, which I think is probably, you know, if you were to have a massive accident, you'd probably rather smash the radiator than the fuel tank. But obviously it's a very safe tank. If you were to have an accident, these things are unbelievable and completely safe, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. The only thing would be is if it was to be damaged, and obviously you have to then again replace it. So I'm thinking the tank will have to probably go here just for room sakes, because I think if we put the tank up here, it will sit a lot higher than expected and will also affect the airflow coming down into the radiator. But let's just obviously get it in there, see what we can do. Another thing I want to mention as well, I want to put a NOS bottle somewhere in here. Not that we're going to use NOS just yet, but I want to have the room for it or the availability for it in case we want to use it in the future. I've seen the Papadakis build they did on their Supra. They had a bottle sitting right next to their tank, so we might do something like that. Yeah, we'll just have to size everything up and see. All right, firewall's in. Looks pretty good. It's just sitting there at the moment. But it looks pretty nice. Ignore the terrible repair job. That's gonna be fixed. We'll get the tank in. So I'm putting these cardboard blocks in here that were in the box with the Radium tank. I'm gonna put them in there just to kind of give us an idea of where it should sit, because it has to sit a bit elevated for the winter's diff. I'm not too sure where that's gonna sit, but I reckon it's gonna sit probably an inch or two higher than that from what I've seen. So I'll just use a cardboard as a template for now. All right, tank's in. Doesn't sit too bad. I thought it would sit a little bit higher. It might be a little bit too high for the radiator. I'm not sure. We'll just have to size it up and see. All right, we'll get the new radiator out of the box. And of course, Ben's written Fatty Hill Drift. Not the first time I've seen that. All right, well, here's the radiator. I'm not going to take it out of the wrap just yet because it's well protected and I'll probably scratch it and stuff it up. So at the moment, I've only been able to get it to sit in this way quite easily because it is a bit wider than the chassis rails. So I'll try and flip it the other way and see if we can get it to sit like that. Unfortunately, it's as far as I can get it, because I'm going to have to cut out that section in here because it's hitting on the corners, so it's a bit too wide for this area. That's all being repaired or getting repaired anyway, so I could cut it out. I think I'm going to try and sit it up here instead and put the tank behind it, which is still quite high. I might have to, yeah, so that sits okay there. can't really access the tank there though. I might have to cut the boot. Not sure about this one. I'll try it without these cardboard packers under it. Alright, well the radiator here actually looks pretty good. Like it sits quite well there. There's enough room for the winters as well. We can make up a plate there. Looks like the flow could come nicely through here and hit the radiator quite well. This is usually how the HGK cars are set up. They're set up pretty much exactly like this. They sit the radiator about there and they have a really nice carbon fan shroud that sits here. We'll custom fabricate that because it's just too damn expensive to get over from Estonia or wherever they come from. And I think, yeah, that gives us enough room to put the tank in here. I did dummy fit the tank up before. It doesn't really give us any room to fit a NOS bottle, so I'll have to figure that one out. With the boot as well, I'm going to just run the skin, I think, or the outside skin, pull the glass out, and probably put a half perspex window on there, just so it kind of meets up to here, so this is covered. The boot's in pretty bad shape though, so I'm probably going to have to get a new one. Not too sure about that one yet, but most of it is glass, so yeah, it's quite easy to remove that, I think, or break it, not sure which one. All right, well this is how it could look with the radiator in the front and the tank in the back. I'm not stoked with how much room I have here, because if I do have quite a big impact across here, which fingers crossed is not going to happen anytime soon, but if I do have an impact through here, it will probably damage the tank quite easily, so not too sure how happy I am about this one. And if I do sit the tank a bit higher, it will obviously affect the fan setup that we put in here as well. Pretty sure this is how the HGK cars are set up though. So I know the HGK cars are fully tubed in the back, whereas I'm probably leaving the factory chassis rails for now at least, because to get spare quarters and guards for these cars are quite expensive at the moment. So when it gets to the point of replacing these with, say, an HGK aftermarket carbon fiber guard or a brand new guard like Papadakis did, they cut along here, in here, and here, and basically got a factory guard and put it over the top of it. So if they do have a crash, they just put a brand new guard over the top from Toyota. Again, still a couple $1,000s per side. Probably not going to do that at the moment. So we're just going to run the factory rails. All right, so now I have moved the radiator. As you can see, it's sitting a bit further forward at the bottom. It's a bit more angled. It looks pretty good. Looks like the airflow would come over the roof nicely into the back there. Gives us a bit more room as well. With the tank, I put the tank up a bit higher before. It will possibly affect the area where we're building the fan shroud, and I think we're going to put two 16-inch fans in, just like the S15, or maybe one. I'm not too sure yet. We'll see how much room we've got, but I think, yeah, the tank's either going to have to sit there where it is. As you can see, it's pretty close to the back here, so not a lot is protecting that. So I'll have to figure that out and see what we can do. All right, plans have changed. We've decided to finish up with the tank and the radiator for now. I've pulled the diff out of my S15 because that's the diff that's going in the Supra for now. So S15's on the hoist, just remove that. Now we have the subframe on the bench, so we're gonna make up a jig so we can basically chop all this up with the brackets that we have and mount the winters to it. So we'll get stuck into that, and once that's done, then we can probably move on to the tank and the radiator. The issue is we didn't know where the differential was going to sit in relation to the tank. We need to now work out the distance between the differential plate there and the tank, so we can still change the gears on the back, because if we can't obviously access the gears, then the plate won't come off and we can't change anything. So we're going to have to work out where to sit everything. It looks like the tank's going to sit as far back as possible to this anyway, which only gives us a small amount of room. So we need to work out how high the tank's going to sit, because obviously the higher that we sit the tank at the bottom, the more room we'll have to access the winter's quick change differential gears here. Alright guys, so we've pretty much finished the whole rear end install of the radiator, the tank, and the subframe for the winters. So I actually had to wait for some plates to come back in from New Zealand because we had the wrong plates on the subframe. So we welded it all together and mock fitted it up, and the wrong plates were here. So I had to wait for some new ones to arrive. It took some time to get the tank in because we were trying to work out location and brackets and everything else to try and figure that all out. And also we changed the location of the radiator as well. So I'll just show you guys. Basically, this is how it's currently sitting. So we've put the fuel tank as far back as possible here. Realistically, you don't have a lot of room in the back of the Supra because once you have the subframe mounted in the back there, you've only got a small amount of room to then be able to pull your diff gears out of the back of the diff there. So we've had to mount the tank back a bit further than I really wanted to. So you can kind of see there, it's just popping out. So I use the snap-on nibbler to cut all this out. Obviously it's a little bit rough in some areas, but cut all that out so I could set this back as far as possible. And I'm really happy with the location. Obviously, being able to see the radiator at the back here, being able to see the tank at the back here when the rear bumper's off is pretty cool in my opinion. Obviously, we don't want the bumper to fly off and you don't want to have to see it all the time, but when it does, you can see Radium at the back there. You can see the tank set up and it looks really nice and clean. We still have to trim a few things up as well. I've got the factory Rio there, which we might be using, which bolts on just here once we finish up all the panel work when it goes back to the panel shop. But otherwise, I might make up a bar that goes across here and also a bar that sits underneath the tank there as well. So it will protect it. And you can also jack underneath from there as well. But essentially, this is the final location. So we made up a big plate here. This is a big 3mm thick steel plate. And welded that in, welded it along there in a couple of spots, which we still really need to clean up. Still need to clean up some areas here, but we made the poles for the radiator, both on here and both on there on the floor. So that's welded directly to the floor there. And as you can see, we bolted it in there as well. So there's 3 different mounting points that we can move the radiator in if we want to. The HGK firewall isn't currently in the car. I've put that away just to keep it protected so it doesn't get scratched from welding, but it sits, you know, about here, which gives you enough room for the air to kind of come over the roof here and come into the radiator. Which, you know, will hit the Fenix radiator quite nicely. There's plenty of space there. We're going to put 2 big spout fans in here, there and there. So we'll make up a fan shroud for that. And obviously run our AN fittings to our radiator all the way under here, probably, or somewhere under here and to the front of the car using some alloy pipes. As for, well, basically that's the radiator and the tank setup. As for the subframe, we've had to fully custom make these solid spaces out of solid alloy. So we've machined them up on our mill that we have here. And, you know, they're in a good location. The only thing is this needs to be milled down a bit more so it sits up higher in the car, because at the moment it's not sitting high enough. I'll show you this probably in another video, or I'll try and throw some footage in here. But the top of the diff is just sitting up in there. I want it to kind of go a bit higher if I can. So this is all spot welded in at the moment. I'm going to break the spot welds, and we are still waiting to install the rest of the kit here. That's only mock fitted at the moment, but I've got the other plate that came in from New Zealand, so I'm going to install that from RPM in New Zealand. And we're going to install that and obviously try and get this whole diff sitting a little bit higher at the moment because it's sitting a little bit too low when it's in the car. And we really want it to sit as high as possible because essentially, if it's not sitting high enough, you will damage the bottom of the diff and it will cause you problems. Also, it will change the way the drive shaft location bolts up to it. So obviously that will be sitting too low as well. So I still need to finish that, but we've kind of draft fitted everything to a point that we want to get it to, and it's in a really good location apart from the diff needing to sit a bit higher and also getting the subframe a little bit higher as well. So we've got a full wire sub kit for the car that arrived about a month ago. I've got to fit that up and then put that all in the subframe, bolt everything up and see where it sits. And then we can kind of work out how high we need to get the subframe to sit up. I can only get the subframe to sit up to a certain point. So obviously the highest point I can get the subframe to sit up is if that bottoms out onto here, and that will always sit a little bit lower because from factory they sit a little bit lower at the front. So this will probably bottom out at the back here, and then that will just have a 3 or 4 mil step, I think, there to keep this subframe completely level in the car. So apart from that, the whole rear end will be finished once that's done. So I'm actually heading away on my honeymoon now. I'm leaving tomorrow morning, so I wanted to finish off this video because it's been dragging on for a couple of weeks now. And I want to get the content out there to show you some updates with the car, essentially, which there isn't heaps happening at the moment apart from that whole rear end, which has taken probably 5 weeks or 6 weeks. Yeah, waiting for those plates for the subframe and having to stop work on that and jump onto some other things. It's taken a bit more time than expected. So, but everything's looking really good. I'm very happy with the location of the radiator. So that's in a great location. I've got plenty of room for the fans, as you can see. I really wanted to try and make a NOS bottle fit somewhere in here. I'm sure I probably still could. Until we hit that 1,000 horsepower mark and go the bigger rear housing on the Turbo Smart Turbo, I don't think I'll have to worry about NOS just yet. So yeah, stay tuned on that one. There's also another thing that I need to mention. So the diff frame here sits a little bit more proud of the metal plate here. So we have to build a sheet that sits in there, or obviously bend up a sheet with the bead roller and bead roller sheet here. So we'll just nutsert that in and make it look nice and clean. So if you do want to look at the top of the diff or access the top of the diff or like undo any drive shafts or anything, you can get in here real quickly and undo drive shafts. You know, maybe if you're in a 5-minute rule, you got 2 people working on the car, quickly rip that plate out and you can jump in there and start undoing the drive shafts or help someone do that if you do need to replace it. So I find that really, really great. We're going to try and make sure the fans can be detached quite quickly. So we'll probably put them on like a quick release screw set up here, so the fans can just come out. That plate can be taken off, and you can work in there, and obviously then just put the fans back on. So that's a potential plan, not locked in solid yet, but I thought of that as a good idea. There's heaps of room here to access the drive shaft, so it might be quite handy in a 5-minute rule. That's pretty much it for this episode. So this is a full radiator, tank, and winter subframe vlog. Once that's all completed and welded back up when I get home, I'll fit it up to its final position essentially. Get the wires fab in. So the next video should probably be on the wires fab and the suspension. So we've got the shock works going in the car as well. Heaps more fabrication still to be done. I'm still waiting for Red Sun Motorsport to get the engine back from the machine shop. So we still have the mock block in at the moment, and I haven't finished the engine mounts yet. The cages, as you would have seen in the previous videos, is pretty much completed. Just need to do the main hoop in the back once we do the seat mounts and get the firewall back in the car. But yeah, looking at the car, there's still heaps of stuff to be done. The aim is to have this car finished probably by, I'm pushing for Christmas. I really want to have this done for Christmas.
Just kidding.
Or at the latest, January, so we can get it ready, tested, and ready for a big year next year. So yeah, scary to think how much work there is to be done and how behind I am with the car at the moment. But hopefully over the next few months, we'll catch up on some work and just really knuckle down on it. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you liked the video. If you want to see any other content, let me know. If you want to know anything else about the Supra, obviously it's all brand new to me. I'm still learning heaps about the car and learning things that it's very different to an S chassis. There's tons of things that we have to change, especially with the subframe location and trying to figure all that out. So there's not really anything apart from some HGK parts that you can buy from overseas. But obviously that stuff's very expensive. So we're trying to make everything in-house. We've got all the machinery here to do everything that we need. So essentially I don't have to really go out there and spend thousands of dollars on subframes and mounts. And yeah, it's good just learning a lot more about the car and trying to build it from scratch and just trying to do everything in-house so we can obviously develop the car better in the future and just learn more about, you know, how to set up a BMW/Toyota Supra. So they're very interesting. So I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, guys, hope you're enjoying the content. And if you want to see anything else, let me know. That's it for now. Stay tuned, and I'll have some content up on probably the wires fab and suspension probably in the next 5 to 6 weeks. All right, guys, have a good one.